Okay, awesome. How is everybody doing? Like I said, happy Thursday. This is a little bit of a Q&A office hours session focusing on part two of the application for Code Platoon. So thank you all for spending some time to join here. My name is Danny. I am our recruitment manager here. We also have Andreas, who's been a summer intern for us. He's put together some great information that we'll reference later in this conversation. But yeah, just wanted to say hi, introduce Code Platoon. I believe most everybody in this room, kind of raise of hands or maybe make a comment. If you guys started on your application process, this is for part two. So just hands up, kind of thumbs up. I'm assuming that most everybody has kind of begun that process. It's great. Awesome. And yeah, I know that there are some FAQs around part two of this application. So would be excited to learn a little bit more about where people are in the process with part two, if there's any questions there. But yeah, I kind of wanted to start a little bit by showcasing some of what Andreas has done here. He has basically created a little bit of a kind of slideshow deck revolving around CoderByte and the assessment there. So let me go ahead and find this slide here. Okay, let's just go ahead into present mode. Okay, can everybody see the screen? No? All right, one second. Okay, how about now? Yeah? Okay, great. Awesome. So yeah, I'm assuming that most people in part two have gotten to CoderByte. Hopefully, you all have kind of opened up that portal and started looking at some of the assessments. So part one of the application is really getting some background information on yourself, what program you're interested in, how you're interested in funding your program, and really kind of getting you set up into our channel. And then when you get to part two of this application process, we ask you to take three coding exercises. You don't need any prior coding experience to complete these exercises. It definitely helps if you spend a little bit of time studying, though. And we're not looking for perfection here. We're just looking for people that are making a solid attempt, a little bit of a filtering method so that we can make sure that the people that are joining these cohorts are interested in progressing in software engineering and really giving it their everything to learn and develop into a software engineer. So, yeah, this is kind of what you would normally see. You can see here, you're just putting in your first name, last name into CoderByte, your email address, and then if you notice, you'll have, and can everybody see my cursor as I'm kind of moving this along? Yeah. Okay, cool. You can see here under time limit, it's unlimited the amount of time that you have. So don't think of this as kind of like a final exam in college or something. It's really something that you can get to, take a look at, close
Danny,
out, join back in. Yeah.
Dan said they're not seeing anything right now.
Oh, you're not, Dan? Can everybody else see? Yeah.
I,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep, I'm able to see.
Well, Dan, maybe it's your screen. If you're looking in a browser, maybe shrink, zoom down, and yeah, it should be on if everybody else is. But Dan, also, actually, Andreas, if you don't mind throwing that YouTube link, we uploaded this kind of overview also into YouTube. So if you guys want to reference some of what I'm talking about here in this slide deck, you can do so. Andreas is putting that in the chat. But back to what I was mentioning about that time limit. Again, unlimited amount of time. So take as much time as you need to complete this assessment, and you can close out your window, get back to it It's not something that will penalize you for taking too much time or exiting and coming back in and you need to start from scratch. It'll cache all of the information that you're putting in as you're working through. Um, and then, yeah, this part right here that says, I understand that once I begin the assessment, I cannot leave and return to the assessment at a later time is not accurate. So, CoderByte in its core is basically an interviewing mechanism for companies to hire software engineers and understand, their aptitude level. So, we're using it slightly different. Don't worry about closing out the window and losing the work that you do or not being able to come back. You can absolutely come back to it. So make sure that you still check this box, but just know you have unlimited time and you can get back to this, your assessment as many times as you'd like. And you can also submit it as many times as you like. But again, here you can see there's no time limit. Here are the three challenges. So we have our string, array, and math. We really kind of refer to these more or less as exercises, though. We're not trying to pass fail you. We're really just trying to understand your ability as a software engineer. So if you do it and you're not getting the test cases to work correctly, it's all about the ability to try and work towards something. So don't be too intimidated by the word challenge. And then once you're completed with all of the assessments, you can submit it. I recommend taking a screenshot of your work for each one of these assessments because in part two of the application, you'll also need to take a video describing like, your methodology in solving this. And it's helpful just to know what your code was when you're working through the video. So if you hit submit and you haven't screenshotted it, there's no easy way for us to get you that code. And so it's best just to kind of have your own recording of the code that you did. So take a quick screenshot on your desktop or PC or laptop and save it somewhere so that you can reference it later when you're taking the video. Okay, great. So next, you see here, this is what is referred to as just an online IDE. So this is basically where you're writing in your code. A couple things that are really important to know, and this is something I didn't know about just going through this, but you can switch your languages here. So at the top, you can see this drop down box here, and it starts as a default with JavaScript, but you can use Python 2 or Python 3. They're all available at your disposal. Python is a really readable and legible language, easy to begin with, as is JavaScript. Both are great languages. I would recommend if you're doing our AI, cloud, and DevOps cohort,
Mm,
our Delta Platoon, that you do it in Python. Python will be the language you'll
mm,
use the most in that cohort. If you're doing full
mm,
stack work, React and JavaScript are very popular frameworks, and so that might be a good starting point. But again, you can use JavaScript, Python 2, or Python 3. Now, on the left-hand side, you see your challenge prompt. So this is basically the problem that you're trying to solve. Each one's about a paragraph in length. It's really helpful to understand what your problem is. And I always tell people to like get a notebook. Oh, you can't see it because it's a little blurry. I'll put my body there, but get a notebook and just write it down. Reference it while you're going through these exercises so you can look back to it. And another really helpful tip is while we don't encourage anybody to be using an AI to solve this problem, like don't take this paragraph, throw it into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you write some code and solve this for me in JavaScript? We'll be able to detect that, but you can copy this, put it into an LLM and say, hey, can you break this down for me so that I understand what this exercise is wanting me to do? Or even you
mm,
can prompt it an LLM and say, hey, I'm a novice software engineer. I have very little experience, but I want to get better. Can you create like a lesson plan for me based on this problem so that I can study and learn along? Use, these LLMs and AI as a tool in your learning. Don't take the shortcut of having it solve for you, but use it as kind of Rails and co-pilot, if you will, while you're solving. And it does a really great job of breaking down some concepts. So in this challenge, for instance, we're talking about strings. Strings, for lack of a better word, are just sentences. They're just letters and words. So each one of these characters is basically a string when you put that quotation around it. So our first string here is after badly. Now, this prompt is trying to understand how many places are between the letter A and B. So if you see here, the A starts with after, the B is the beginning of badly, there is one, two, three, four spaces and characters between A and B in this. And then you have another A here that's right next to the B. So this prompt is trying to see if there's exactly three between. So in this case of after badly, it is false. There are not three spaces exactly between the A and the B. But if we go here to this next prompt, which is Laura sobs, we get to the final A in the word Laura or the name Laura, and we count one, two, three, and we get to a B, which fits in the parameter of exactly three. So the output is true. You can see a little bit of the code here set up, trying to get to understand exactly counting the distance between these two. So what we did basically is create this let variable here. We created a for statement. We set a variable I to 0, and then we're basically counting the distance between 0, which is our I, so one of these letters, and B. And you can see the -4 here kind of counts to three. One helpful tip with this is I've always equated it back when I learned to like a Monopoly board. If you've ever played the game Monopoly, you start at go, like everybody starts at go. And if you roll the number three, you go from go and you go one, two, three places. In software engineering, the computer will go to go as one of the places. So if you rolled a three, the computer would say, okay, now you're moving to go one, and then count one, two after that to get to three. So you have to account for zero. You have to basically create your starting point. That's why the number four is very critical there, or +1 is very critical there. You can also see here that we're increasing I, so I is going up one every time. That's what the plus plus variable is. But again, I definitely recommend taking these prompts, using an LLM to guide you in your learning process. Don't have it solve it for you, but literally tell it, hey, I'm trying to figure out this problem. Can you create some lessons for me too? And it should do a really good job. I will also reference our Intro to Coding Live playlist, which I think I'm seeing some familiar faces and names that were attendants there. But I think that's a really great way to be able to get ingratiated with software engineering. We have an instructor there, Roger. It was all recorded live, but we've uploaded it, so you can always reference back to those videos. Great starting spots there. Um, Awesome. And then another thing is, this is your memory output at the right-hand side. So you can see here all the different packages that are pre-installed. So this is a web-based IDE. It's all hosted online. You don't have to download anything to your computer. And then right here, you can see where your input is. So this is basically what you're entering in, the word after badly. You can hit run to run the code. You can run a test case, and then you can hit submit as well to submit the code that you're writing. Um, Another pro tip here is this Google search bar. So you can also utilize this if you have any questions, maybe like what are different variables within Python or JavaScript, or how do I structure a for loop or an if else statement? You can do all of that right here in the browser. You can also, though, create another browser if you'd like to reference as well, maybe like Stack Overflow or something like that. But you can also just, type it in here for a little bit of convenience. Now, if you're a novice software engineer, it is super normal to see these syntactical errors. That is part of the learning process. You can actually see where the errors are. So here it points to line number 7, there being an error. There's line number 7 right there. So there was an issue. Even though there isn't any code there, that's basically where some code was expected. And yeah, if you're going through this process and you feel like you're getting some syntactical errors, that's totally fine. Again, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for you to attempt, but ideally, keep iterating on the solution until you can run your code and the code is doing as we would like. So yeah, you'll kind of see here where the output is, and then you'll see how it was recording as false and then true and what the input is. So, yep, right here, this kind of explains it a little bit. You'll see your errors there. You'll see the packages. You'll see the test spot right up here where you're trying out the code. These are just some examples, but you could do whatever you want in here. I mean, you write the code, it's flexible. You can do your own first name, last name, and see if there's exactly three between an A and a B in your first name or last name. Um, and then, yeah, once you enter in your solution, let me actually go back. Once you hit submit here, it's going to run these test cases. So basically, just seeing how your code is handling different inputs. It is great if you get 10 out of 10. That is perfection. That is what everybody should strive for. If you get 2 out of 10, that's okay as well. Again, we're expecting you not to come to us as polished software engineers. We're expecting to be able to teach you and take you from 0 to 10, but the goal is that you are putting in the effort to try. And that's an aptitude and kind of a filtration device for us to make sure that when our instructors are putting in time and energy into you, you're going to be receptive and willing to learn. So that's kind of why this coder bite is here. No way are we expecting everybody to get 10 out of 10s. That is not the case. That's not reality. Just that you're attempting it. Ideally, even if you get one of the test cases to work, that's fine. We'll be able to work with you. Um, Next, you can see some of the points. So again, if you get 10 out of 10, you're going to get 10 case points. If you get zero, again, just try it again. You can submit it as many times as you want. You can take as much time as you want. And again, there's a lot of ways that we can support your learning. So yeah, and you could also message me as well if you have any questions, any concerns at all with Coder Byte or working out through some of the challenges. All right, I'm going to stop share screening and open up the floor a little bit. Nice to see. I wasn't taking a look at all the people that we have here, but Devin, Angel, Logan, Monica, Scott, nice to see everybody. Would love to answer some questions and maybe have some discourse and see how everybody's doing with part two of the application.
Can you just clarify what exactly part two is?
Yeah, sure. So, part one of your application is basically giving us some rough information about you, letting us know how you plan on funding your program and what program you're interested in. Part two is where you're going to be submitting a coding exercise. So, that's what we just went over with CoderByte. You're going to be doing a short summary, writing kind of what your intent is with the program, what you're hoping to do in software engineering or technology, and then you're also taking a video just describing, the way in which you solved your coder by exercise. So it could be something like, watched all the intro to coding live videos, did some practice with Code Academy, did some leak code basic stuff, used some LLMs, and I was able to solve through and get better at understanding strings, arrays, and defining integers. Does that answer your question, Scott?
Yep, 100%. I just wanted to make sure I was where I thought I was because I've already got the video in. So I just wanted to verify.
Awesome. Awesome. And then, yeah, part of step two is going to be an August 13th kickoff. We have 3 fall cohorts coming up. So we have our full stack immersive program that is 15 weeks, 40 hours a week, and that has an August 10th deadline. We have our AI cloud and DevOps program. That is evenings and weekends. That is going to be 28 weeks at 20 hours a week and has an August 17th deadline. And then we have a full stack evenings and weekends cohort that is titled India Platoon. That is going to be 28 weeks, 20 hours a week, has an August 31st deadline. All of our cohorts, though, are starting in October and November. So it's kind of the kickoff call is really for everybody that's enrolled in those programs, talk to an instructor, talk to the recruitment team here, make sure that everything's in line. At the end of that August 13th meeting, everybody will get a Calendly link. One of our admissions instructors, Guillermo, he is a graduate of Code Platoon. He is the one that's going to be having your kind of live conversation interview before you join the cohort to make sure that, everything's in line. You have all the expectations set. You're able to do some Q&As. He'll ask a little bit about, your reasoning for joining Code Platoon, what you're hoping to get out of the program. He's a successful graduate of ours. He works at Amazon now, and he gives some time back to really help other people that were in the same position that he was in. So yeah, that'll happen August 13th, and then you'll get that Calendly invite so you can select some time to have a one-on-one session with Guillermo. Great question. So, how is everybody doing with CoderByte? I guess I know not everybody is on camera, but for those on camera, and if you're off camera, if you want to throw, I have to chat up and just write a message. But has everybody started CoderByte? Has everybody taken a look at that online IDE yet?
So I went ahead and I did Coder Byte, and then as soon as I mean, I've taken a couple of Python courses, and I did the intro this last month, and as soon as I sat down to execute it, I was just like, what the heck? Just nothing came to me, and
Yeah,
I just just dead brained, and so I got with Roger, and he shared a couple sites, but I can follow through the videos and understand it well, but just kind of like Roger said towards the end is when I go to execute and starting from scratch, um, I was just like, man, I can understand variables, I can understand for loops. It's just actually executing when I'm given a problem.
yeah,
And so, I was watching a couple YouTube videos, and that seems to be like a common thing for beginners. And so they were kind of describing how they go about it. But um, what I did was kind of go through some of the sites that Roger was talking about, but what I didn't think about was what you just mentioned. I think is going to help me a lot. Is just copy that problem and then paste it in the chat GPT and say create a learning plan. So I'm going to try that
yeah.
out this weekend and do that, and maybe that'll help me out with the application at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely think there's that kind of like freeze feeling when you're actually like going to do something, even if you've kind of prepared and learned a lot. But it's definitely just about getting started and, baby steps. It works its way up. I remember doing software engineering and we had no computers. We like your professor was like, go up to the whiteboard and write your code. And I was always like, I don't want to get called. You're like in front of everybody, just literally writing out lines of code and being assessed there. But yeah, thank you for sharing, Jose. I definitely think that there's a lot of support there. Roger's a great instructor. And hopefully, with some of these tools that you are able to, progress. And if you ever have any questions, I mean, that's why this dialogue is happening because I'm curious to see, does anybody else feel like they're kind of have that kind of knee-jerk reaction of kind of freezing up when you're actually getting to the coder bite?
Yeah. I looked at the similar to Mandrano. I was looking at it and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So, because I know it was advertised like you could be a beginner or you could be seasoned, but I went in there a few times and I haven't worked through the first one yet. Every time I go in there, I punch some stuff, I run the test and it's wrong, and I'm like, what am I doing? But I'm happy to know, like you said, that we can put it into the things like GPT to work out a lesson. Don't give us the answer.
Yeah.
That's pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you're inputting it and it's not correct or it's not working properly, that's fine. Part of this is really just seeing who's committed to working through this process versus just kind of interested in a career in software engineering because it sounds like, a good career path and well paid and there's remote opportunities. This is really a way for us to kind of make sure that the people joining the cohort are people that are wanting to learn and so don't think of it as I need to be perfect. Think of it more as like, I'm going to complete this. We will work with you. We'll be able to take you from, like I said, 0 to 10. Awesome. It looks like we have some questions in the chat here. I see Devin, you had mentioned Mimo. Mimo is cool. Mimo is basically an app-based software engineering learning platform. So a lot of people aren't always at their laptop. Mimo takes you through some different lessons and you can just do it on your phone. So almost like Duolingo, where people are just, maybe you're taking a train ride, you're in a car ride or something, you can spend like 10, 15 minutes on it and slowly get better and better. So good call out there. I also like Code Academy a lot. Code.dev is a cool one that I learned about where you are, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings themed coding exercise and challenge. Let me see if I can find that. Um, but yeah, while we're on the topic, how I see a couple people saying that they're working on problem number 3, which is great. The 3 problems are a string problem, an array problem, and a math problem. So we kind of talked a little bit about the string problem, which is basically finding the space between A and B. The array problem is interesting. It's basically trying to see at what point numbers are increasing or decreasing, which is kind of, super humanistic. Like if you were to look at a list of 10 numbers or even like five numbers, let's say it's 1, 3, 6, 2, 1, you'd be able to like instantly say what number, is the highest number and therefore the point that it starts decreasing, like 6. So think about writing those different problems in digestible pieces where it's like, okay, if we're counting 1, how do we tell the difference between 1 and 2 to know which number is greater? Well, you basically are taking 1, minusing the second number that you get, and if it's higher than 0, then it's greater than that number. If it's lower than 0, then it's smaller than that number. So if we take 4 minus 2, we get to 2. It's smaller than 4. Now the number's decreasing. So try to like play along with those different logical points because it's really helpful when you're solving through a problem to break it down into layman's terms and try to understand like, okay, if I was just talking with somebody, how would I try to solve this? And then you could apply some different software engineering concepts to figure something out. Brandon mentioned, hey Brandon, Mosh on YouTube is a great reference. Yes, Mosh is great. I have seen that channel before. There is a lot of great people out there that are, breaking some of these concepts down easily. Um, Scott, you had a question. If we're using VR&E, at what point are we officially accepted so we can move forward with the funding process? We know how efficient the government is. Facts, Brandon says. Yeah, absolutely. So with when you complete part 2 of your application, you are conditionally accepted. Almost everybody that's conditionally accepted is accepted into the program. So in terms of your benefits and how you're funding, once you're conditionally accepted, you can take that email and send it to whoever your VRE, VA counselor is, email them, and that should be all that you need in order to signify that you're accepted into the program. If you need anything following for us, just feel free to email me or info at Code Platoon, and we'll be able to get you everything that you need so that you can kind of feel confident about joining the program and that your counselor feels good about where those benefits are going. Awesome. I did want to do. Has anybody here completed Coder Byte yet? Has anybody finished the 3 challenges?
Yeah.
Monica did.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Scott did. Great. I was curious to see. I'm going to launch this poll. If you guys want to, can everybody see this poll? Did it go anywhere? You did? Okay. What question you thought was the toughest? I
Okay,
did.
so
Yeah.
like I guess I can go here. So I would say the first one with the strings was actually pretty easy for me. The second one for the arrays was like medium, and then the third one for math, like oh wow, I that was so difficult for me.
Yeah.
Like I was really working on that problem like it was a full-time job. I'm not even joking.
No, it's funny that you mention it because just before we had a little prep, me and Andreas, and like there is a term in the second one. I think what did we say? It was mathematical persistence. And I was like, I've never heard that term before. It's definitely one that like kind of when I was going through the exercise was was interesting. But yeah, for those that don't know, the third question is basically taking 2 numbers and then you're separating them. So if we had, for instance, the number 22, you're separating them and multiplying them together. So you're taking 22, you're separating them and taking 2 times 2, which equals 4, and you get down to one number. So that would have a mathematical persistence of 1. But if we did a number like think in the example, it was 27. If we take 27, you take 2 times 7, you get 14. And then you take 1 times 4, so you're separating the 14, and then you get to 4. So that has that mathematical persistence of 2. It's definitely a clever question. So kudos, Monica, for finishing that, Scott as well. But again, if completing through the exercises, if you get to 3 and you're like, man, this one's really tough, let me see what I can do, and you submit it and it's not right, that is not a disqualifying factor whatsoever. We know that the questions aren't like easy if you're a beginner to solve through. How did anybody else get to? I know, Scott, I think you finished it. Problem number three. It looks like through the poll, that was the toughest question, with 5 out of 7 people signifying that.
Yes, I only scored 2 out of 10 in that math challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, that was not an easy one. And then Scott put in it. Yeah, and that is a term right there. Multiplicative persistence. Did not learn that in any of my math classes. Um, but yeah, again, too, I think if you take those questions and break them down into digestible chunks and really try to like progress through it, you'll make progress. And I think that's one of the most rewarding processes of software engineering is looking at a problem and being like, what in the world is this? Like, I took my programming classes in college over a summer intensive, and I was working full time paying through my education, and I would do coding at night. Like I would literally I bought an electric kettle because it was quiet, and I would like make a cup of coffee at midnight and then start coding. And there were times that was like 2 a.m. and I was just like, what is happening right now? But when you overcome that and you solve it, like I was fist pumping in the middle of the night and just like screaming into a pillow because I was so geeked that my code worked, no errors. It is a really, really rewarding feeling when you have something that's really difficult and you're able to work through it and overcome it and ultimately get better. And I think those are the kind of experiences that you'll build upon with Code Platoon with other students that are all in the same position as you. And that's what I think is so amazing about our organization is everybody here is in the military community. Everybody here is working together to get into a career in software engineering, and everybody has that kinship and that ability to help each other out. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So yeah, awesome. Any questions? Kind of open forum. Any thoughts? Anything that we can help in terms of the coder byte or part two of the application in general? Does everybody feel like they have a good understanding of what part two is in terms of the different steps through it?
I do have a question.
Yeah,
So, when is the part where we make a video to explain our codes for CoderByte?
yeah, absolutely. So, I had this question come up as well. And let me see if I can get to it. It is after you submit your coder byte uh, assessment. Once you finish submitting it, you'll get to a page that basically says, now record your video, but it's layered underneath it. Let me see if I can find a quick screen share. In summation, you're doing it right after you submit your coder byte. You should be able to upload your video or start in that process.
And to follow up, what's the next step after that, after you make the video?
Yeah, so after you make the video, you're also going to do the short summary, just kind of explaining the why behind joining Code Platoon, what you're hoping to get out of it. After that, you would get an invitation to then join the August 13th kickoff call. Once you're done with the kickoff call, we'll be sending out the Calendly for Guillermo, and then you would be able to find some time to speak and interview with him.
Thank
And then
you.
I'm gonna upload really quickly. Can I upload it here? Andres, I'm gonna send this to you, and then if you can throw it in, it's just a screen grab of where that submission is in CoderByte. Any other questions about part two process or flow? Any questions even about the cohort? We're here to help in any way that we can and get you as much information about the program as we can.
I have a question.
Yeah.
My name's James Messersmith. I'm just started basically studying all the material about a week and a half ago. I see
Mhm.
the deadline is August 10th, so I'm trying to see what is like the latest because I'm trying to basically cram as much code as I can before I did part two for the live coding part. What is
Yeah.
like the latest I want to have everything done before the 10th? I don't know if it's a 1 day process, 3 day process, 5 day process for
As long
the.
as you submit it by the 10th, that's fine. What I would suggest though, James, is almost like gamifying it. Like try to submit everything now, get it in, and then you can always resubmit after the fact. We'll take your most recent submittal if there's multiple. So that way you're kind of hedging your bet of like, all right, I'm already in by the deadline, but now I can iterate and get better and hopefully through the next few weeks of learning, have cleaner code.
Got it.
Yeah, and Andres, I don't know if
Uh,
that did that work. Oh, it
It's
didn't.
not
Okay.
letting me.
Okay, no problem. I'll do a quick screen share, but I think I cut somebody off.
oh, it's okay. I was about to ask. Oh, I actually just forgot my question.
Oh, no problem. No problem. And I'm going to do a quick screen share. If everybody can see here, this is a screenshot I took, but after you submit, if you scroll down on CoderByte, you'll see this I mean, it says essays, but it's really just a short summary and video where you're basically just kind of completing your application and uploading, some quick statements about why you're joining the program, what you're hoping to get out of it. So that's where that kind of lives in CoderByte.
I
Devin
just
is asking
remembered.
for a link to the Slack. I can throw a link to the Slack in the chat as well. Yeah, Monica.
Yeah, so how is the pacing going to be like for the actual cohort? Is it going to be similar to the pacing for intro to coding, or is it going to be a bit quicker?
Yeah, I think that can depend a little bit on what cohort you're in. We do have our curriculum online for full stack. I think we're getting the curriculum put together for AI, cloud, and DevOps. But if you're in the immersive program, it's going to be 40 hours a week, 8:30 to 5:30, Monday to Friday. You're basically going to be moving at a pretty solid pace. I would say Intro to Coding Live, those were kind of shorter sessions. So I think we were putting a lot in there. I would imagine that you're going to have much more downtime when you're actually in the cohort to spend time coding and kind of working along with your peers and learning. So yeah, that's what I would say in terms of the pacing is Intro to Coding Live is just a bit faster because you're trying to put a lot into that 2 hour window.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I
let
have
me see
another
if I can
question.
get the curriculum. Yeah, James.
So I've been going the last class that you guys had about 3 weeks ago. I've been working through it myself, and that first lesson of exercises is like the longest by far. Is that what we typically should be able to complete before we start part two, or is that um kind of like an 80% level? Because once I got about like halfway, I started saying, like, I don't fully understand how to do this without working through it and taking me like 2 hours to complete one exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I would say honestly, for most people that I've talked with that have come from a beginner and are doing the coder bite exercises, it's about 1 to 2 hours for each problem to solve through. I don't know if anybody else can kind of attest to it that's completed it, but that's at least what I have heard on average. I would say that the intro to coding live video, Roger's moving at his own pace. We're trying to get a lot in there. Some of that stuff might be rudimentary to other people, but it's important to cover it because not everybody has that same basis. So, yeah, I think, in general, though, like 1 to 2 hours is kind of on par for what I've heard for people completing through each one of those problems.
Okay, thank you.
I know Roger had mentioned at the end of the the intro to coding live, like there's going to be like a pre-course possibly of like a month long or something like that, where it was like kind of like to kind of get you ready for the cohort. I'm not sure if that's still something that he's planning on doing, or if that was something outside of
Yeah.
cohort.
I can follow up with him. I'm not sure. That isn't on my radar. Is that there like our next Intro to Coding Live is in October to prepare students that are going to be joining in 2026. But I don't think we
Mhm.
have anything in between now and then. But I can
Okay.
definitely ping him, and maybe he was planning on hosting a series or something.
Okay,
And there's
gotcha.
also the Slack channel, which I think several of you have been active in the Intro to Coding Live. I know Devin just asked for a link there, and there is a link in the chat. I'll put a little like I don't know heart emoji on that link, so if you want to quickly find it. And then Scott, you had a question?
Yeah, it's sort of kind of related. I know y'all just came out with the AI cloud dev path.
Mhm.
Is there any talk or thought towards moving like C sharp or any other tech stack?
Not really. Honestly, I think that the big focus with that AI cohort is still within infrastructure where Python kind of reigns supreme. C Sharp is a great language. C Sharp does lend itself towards the Microsoft stack. .NET is one of the biggest frameworks that leverages C Sharp. And in our program, you get a heavy exposure into AWS. So there's a limited exposure into GCP, which is Google's cloud platform, and Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud platform. So if you were going to be focusing on Azure work in particular, C Sharp would be helpful. But again, Python for writing scripts is one of the most widely used language, and especially working with data, which a lot of AI cloud practitioners are working with, is large data sets moving in and out of the cloud, and writing in Python is very powerful and one of the most ubiquitous languages when dealing with data. So right now we don't have a plan on shifting that, but I can ask Julius to see if maybe he has just kind of like a proof of concept for why he chose the languages that he did. I have a feeling though it's just because of what's the most commonly used language within that kind of work.
Okay, yeah, and it wasn't specific to the AI cohort. It was more of a. I know y'all seem to be adding things.
Yeah, I mean, really, we just kind of pivoted our original DevOps cohort into becoming, or our DevOps program into becoming more succinct with where the job market and where the tech industry is at the moment. I mean, AI, it's tough to avoid it. Even if you aren't familiar with any kind of technology, don't really have an interest there, I'm sure that you've heard the word AI said, numerous times over this past year. And it's definitely something that a lot of employers are looking for engineers to have exposure and experience in. So we want to be as dynamic and fluid with the job market. So when we put people through our programs, they're able to get employment shortly after graduating. So that was kind of the idea of shifting to AI, cloud, and DevOps. In terms of our stalwart full stack program, JavaScript and React really run supreme when it comes to building web apps. So it's just the most widely used tech stack in that space. We want to be able to just put our alumni into a position where they're able to have options. And if we kind of pivoted too often or pivoted in more niche directions, there just wouldn't be as many opportunities.
Nope, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, Dan, I definitely can see how it would take around an hour or more for the string challenge. And yeah, it's getting yourself warmed up too. I've This is a common term with a lot of software engineers, especially when they're doing coding interview exercises, which is kind of what CoderByte is like, is getting warmed up. You might write some lines of code and do some simple like mathematical functions or print functions or storing variable functions just to get your mindset in the mode of coding. And I think it's really helpful if are hoping to get through these coder bite challenges, just giving yourself like a time limit saying, hey, I'm going to clear out 2 hours of my calendar. I'm going to put the kids to bed. I'm gonna just get, my headphones on, put on some relaxing music, and just start coding and just start, getting your hands, on the keyboard and writing some lines of code. It's one of the best ways to really kind of get yourself in the mindset, and you would be surprised by how easily you'll start flowing through these problems and getting better and better, case outcomes and more, quote unquote points with the system.
I have another question.
Yeah, please.
Do you have any tips for actually using AI to create like practice tests, practice exams, and whatnot? Because, of course, there is a difference between using AI too much and actually like using it effectively.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good at tapping into a lot of different databases. I'm going to write some options here. Coder Pad, uh, Leet Code, and HackerRank. These are kind of the three biggest ones in terms of coding tests, mini questions, quizzes, and assignments. These three really dominate the space of technical assessments that companies will put engineers through in order to gauge their aptitude. So, if you want to prepare yourself for the job market, starting to get through exercises in CoderPad and LeetCode and HackerRank will not only get you better as a software engineer, but will also get you into the mode of practicing with exercises that potential employers would give you. Maybe they're giving you something similar to a string challenge, but there is a little nuance there that needs recursion. Or maybe it's something about taking an array and then reversing the array. So I would say that if you're looking to use like an LLM to create some problems or examples, I would just prompt it and say, hey, I'm trying to get better as a software engineer. Based on the most popular problems that you find in CoderPad, LeetCode, and HackerRank, can you come up with? And then I would highlight like problems at your level, like maybe like easy to complete problems or easy level difficulty problems within Python. And it'll kind of probably give you a certain amount, whatever you'd ask. So you could say like, I need 10 problems like that. You'd be able to basically kind of use LLMs to create a little bit of like a practice pop quiz for yourself. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, that's really good advice. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think those three, though, have really carved out their space. I would say like 50% or more of big tech companies are leveraging one of these three in order to make their hiring decisions. And leak code is something that a lot of engineers, it's very deep. So if you go to leak code and you do expert level problems, that's a way I've seen a lot of very advanced software engineers test their skills and make sure that they're, still up to date with some of these problems. Because realistically, when you get onto the job, you might have a position as a software engineer where you're just refactoring a bunch of older code. You're still doing software engineering work, but you're not testing the kind of different challenges that you might get to interview at another company. And so it's really helpful when you're going through the job search process to still keep on top of your skills, solving through problems, because that's the way that companies are going to try to assess your work. Another way is also doing take home projects and take home assessments. That is a lot more at your own pace and at your own time, but a combination of those two is the most common way that you'll see companies interview. And then, Jamia, you had mentioned when will this recording be sent out? I would say by end of week, we'll probably get this uploaded sometime tomorrow. How does everybody feel about, this session and now being able to complete part two if they hadn't previously finished it yet? Do you guys feel more confident about going into this and being able to complete it with some of the upcoming deadlines?
Yeah, I think I put a plan today. I was just kind of thinking about it. It's good to know, like, I don't have to have it 100% pass every test case. Just do the best you can. So that's reassuring to hear because what I'm gonna do is just give myself like a 15 August deadline. Like if I'm
Yeah.
gonna study what I can and whatever I know at that point, I'm just gonna do it, and I'm gonna do do the video and the summary to the best of my ability because that's something I know I can control and do top notch on, but not necessarily the code, but I'll at least do the AI prompt, use that so that way when I do the interview with Guillermo, I'll at least have a path that I was walking down to try to
Yeah.
explain. So I think that's kind of reassuring. So I won't too focus too hard on the coding questions. So I'll just try to do the best I can and submit what I have by August 15th and then just do what I can.
Yeah, awesome. And by August 15th, you're referring to the AI Cloud and DevOps?
So I'm trying to do it with the India platoon
Oh,
eventually down
India
the road.
Platoon. Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. You have till August 30th first then. And yeah, just to recap those dates really quickly, if you're doing full stack immersive, that is August 10th of a deadline. That is our Buffalo Platoon. If you're doing AI Cloud and DevOps, that's our Delta Platoon. That's going to be August 17th. And if you're doing our full stack evenings and weekends India Platoon, that's going to be in August 31st. But awesome. I think that's great to have a plan. And I also think too, like, I don't know, so I have a big analogies to like sports, but if you're like a coach of a football team and you're going to go play against a football team and you have no idea like what team you're playing against, have no idea like what their team looks like, how do you prepare for it? You're going to be like, I guess I'll prepare for everything that I could potentially see. But if you can have access and see what the team you'll be playing is, what their strengths are, what they look like, you can much better prepare your team for success. It's really important, I think, to go into CoderByte and look at those problems. If you think you're just going to sit down and knock them out in a weekend, it probably won't happen. It might, but I think the higher likelihood is if you look at the problems, you write it down, you figure out what you need to do, and then when you're learning and when you're developing, you understand what the focus will be. So, really kind of use the ability of having unlimited submissions, being able to exit out of the window, leverage a co-pilot kind of thing that can help you learn, take some of the different materials that we have at your disposal and make that game plan so you can execute it and ultimately, finish that application so that you can get into the cohort and then get an instructor and be part of the program. And then you can, kind of progress through your software engineering journey.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Awesome. Any other questions? Anything else that myself or Andreas can provide some more insights on, more information around? Scott said, just trying to not forget everything I've learned between now and November. Thanks for all the tips. Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, once you're conditionally accepted, it's not something where it's kind of like, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to be like, all right, now I'll wait till first day of class to get back on the computer. Software engineering is a journey, and it's something that the more you put in, the more you'll get out, much like going to the gym or jogging or exercise or any kind of skill. The more time that you're spending with it, the better you'll get. So if you're conditionally accepted, don't let that be the end all be all. There's so many different online resources that can help you continue to practice, continue to get better. And then once the cohort starts, you'll find yourself so much better than you were yesterday. Getting 1% better every day. At the end of the year, you'll be twice as good. Great. Well, if there, on health, yeah.
How do I take the hand off? Okay, there.
No, you're good.
Okay. So I was looking at the string, the first one, and then I saw
Yeah.
the example you put up on the screen, and it was so different from what I was trying myself that I'm just concerned with the deadline so soon. If I'm struggling so much with that, is it still viable to even expect to get into the Buffalo platoon in October by the August 10th deadline, or if I
Yeah.
should start planning for something else?
No, you can definitely do it. And I think one of the things with my code that I had up was that if you look at the prompt, it basically asks you to use a certain variable name. So that's where the code looked a little bit different from what I initially did it. I initially did this in Java and then refactored it into Python. So it definitely looks a little bit different than how I would normally have done it. but that's just a beginning point. That's not the end all be all of the code. There's probably you could probably solve it between like 8 to 10 lines of code, and how you name your variables is how you name your variables. If you don't want to follow that rail of like var cogs, you can call it teddy bear, and it does the same thing.
Okay.
The equal sign though is good, and then you know I is a common thing that people use for integer, which is just a number. So that's kind of a common shorthand. You could call it number and it does the same thing. So the lettering of it doesn't matter as much. It's more the
Okay.
syntax and those operators. But plus plus is definitely going to be important. It'll be important to use equal. And again, if you just kind of use LLMs to help your journey, they should create a little plan that'll tell you some of those different functions to solve it and how they work and how they, kind of interact with each other.
Okay. A soft follow-up. If so, because I want to get the questions right and all that stuff, I know you said to just kind of submit it and then you could resubmit it. How soon should I try to like lock everything in if I need to get my funding together? Obviously, I got the GI Bill and stuff and
Yeah.
everything. What's the latest I should have everything locked in? I know the deadline is August 10th, but what's the latest you suggest?
I mean, I would say like if you need till August 10th, take till August 10th. But if you can submit it early, submit it early. And if you want to redo it, you can. But as long as you're in by August 10th, it's not like if we don't manually look at your process and you submit it on August 10th, you can't get in. We have flexibility there. And there's always flexibility too, your counselor, the VA, command approval, all that can take time. So if you're in the process of still gathering that by the deadline date, we'll work with you.
Yeah, 'cause that's what I was wondering. Like, if I'm not accepted yet, how will I get the VA started on the funding process too? So I was worried that I might
Yeah.
miss it because of that. But all right, that helps.
Yeah, and I discovered this site I really like. This is a pretty cool one called boot.dev. This is one I was referencing earlier. It took me a while to find it, but if you like any kind of like sci-fi fantasy stuff, they basically created a coding camp built around like Lord of the Rings and like Dungeons and Dragons. Super easy though. I like the way that this was created, and yeah, it definitely was good for me. I was picking up Python and Golang, and it helped me out a lot. Again, this is something where, reverse engineer the problem, help have LLMs help you. But in the meantime, if you're looking to keep going, you could keep you could keep doing boot.dev on the side. And yeah, Devin, L LLM is what I've been saying. Large language model, AI, chatbots, it's all kind of ubiquitous. Thank you, Scott, for answering that. Great. While I have you all too, I know that I have been in contact with several of you, but for those that don't have it, this is my email address. If anybody has any questions, if anybody has any concerns, also let me put on my calendar here. If anybody also wants to just book time one-on-one to chat with me, I had some calls earlier today where people were like, hey, I'm just not as confident with CoderByte. How do I start? How do I begin? More than happy to give you some more information via a phone call, and we could have a deeper dialogue if you'd like. So either email me or you can put some time on my Calendly as well. If you're not seeing a time too, for this week, it's Thursday. We only have Friday left. Just click over to next week. I should have office hours available, usually every day from like 3 to 6 p.m. Great. Well, again, appreciate everybody getting into the session. I think that you all have the capability and the ability to complete part two of the application with the deadline coming up. It shouldn't be, a daunting deadline. We're flexible. We'll work with you, but put in the time. We have this upcoming weekend where realistically, if you haven't even started CoderByte, you could start it this weekend and by Sunday have everything completed and be that much better of a version of your software engineering time. It's of yourself. It's all about putting in the time and getting better and better with it. And everybody has imposter syndrome. I mean, I remember the first day walking into the class. It was a minor for me, so there were kids in there that had spent high school and done it on the side, and you kind of feel like, all right, how am I going to get better? And it really does progress quickly. A lot of engineers have this kind of aha moment at some point in coding, usually within 20 to like 30 hours of coding where it's like, okay, I actually feel pretty good about this. Like, give me another question. And, it's just about getting that momentum built. So, best of luck to everybody. Again, if you have any questions, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out.